Visit Avery.com, Avary, for the most up-to-date news and information on Team Avery.
Avery, 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 Avery,
This is the Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you may know my guest from his debut feature film Dogleg, which has been available on streaming but is now available for Blu-ray through Braindead. The movie is a candid look at Los Angeles through a surrealist blend of short films tied together by the search for a lost dog. If you haven't guessed it, yes, I have filmmaker Al Warren with me on the mic. Hey, Al.
Hey, I said hi too early, so
It's
hi.
okay. You can say hi again. You can say hi as many times as you want through this conversation.
Okay, great.
So before we bring up the topic for today, I have a question for you. What was the movie that got you interested in filmmaking?
That's a good question. Maybe Bottle Rocket.
Oh, that's my favorite of his.
I don't think it's my favorite of his, but it was the first of his that I saw. Or you know what? Maybe I saw Royal Tenenbaums first and liked it, but then I remember a kid when I was like a sophomore in high school had the DVD for Bottle Rocket, and he let me borrow it. And I remember going home and watching it and thinking that it was so funny, and it felt quite different than Royal Tenenbaums. At that time I wasn't really tapped into like, you know, necessarily like the aesthetic differences between budgets or something, but there was something that felt very punk about it when I watched it, and felt very like me and my friends. And yeah, so maybe I would say Bottle Rocket. And I think that like getting into Wes Anderson, really more than Wes Anderson, I was into Michel Gondry and Spike Jonze.
Oh my God, Michel Gondry is my favorite music video director of all time because Everlong is amazing. But then he also did Sugar Water for Chipo Mato and like a bunch of others that like I
Did
really
you ever
love.
see those like director's label commentary video DVDs?
No, I don't think
I think it was
so.
called the Director's Label, and they did like compilations of short films and music videos.
Yes, actually, I think that's how I first saw his. I think my dad
too.
had it on box set, and so I think that like we would watch it, and there were like a bunch of really good ones.
Totally. There were really great videos on the Michel Gondry one. And then for me, I think Spike Jonze is my favorite like short form kind of content guy.
Well, his commercials are so good.
Yeah, his commercials, his short films. He made a short documentary about these like Texas teenage cowboys called Amarillo by Morning that was on that DVD. And so anyway, I think that like watching those guys got me really curious, like where's this coming from? What are they into? And I think that was kind of my dip into older movies or cinephilia at large. Is that an okay word to say? Can you say that anymore?
Yeah, cinephilia.
Cinephilia?
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever used it out loud, and I felt kind of gross saying that.
Use cinephilia in a sentence. No,
Yeah.
I think that's like a fine word to use.
It sounds like necrophilia.
It sounds anything with philia sounds like a
yeah,
thing.
I'm like nervous
I mean,
to say that.
liking movies maybe can be an thing every now and then.
Yeah,
I
it can
think
be.
you're fine. Now, as always, my guest gets to bring their topic to the mic. Al, why don't you tell us what your topic is and why you decided to choose it?
My topic today is generational movie sharing. And I think that the reason I'm picking this topic is because I have a son, and I'm always trying to show him movies. And it's interesting the things that he gravitates towards. And I think through doing that, I've been thinking a lot about the movies that my dad shared with me. And I've been thinking also about my grandfathers on both sides, and how what they were into and what they were showing me has kind of trickled down and maybe, I don't know, maybe become a part of my taste and what I like and what I'm interested in making and watching. But before we get into the topic, it's time for a commercial break.
Backed by popular demand, the Video Archives merch store is up and running. Get your favorite t-shirts, hats, notebooks, stickers, and more at videoarchivesmerch.com. You know me. I write all my notes in the Notes on Cinema notebook, the Gala edition, of course. Check out videoarchivesmerch.com to get yours today.
How's it going, everybody? Christian Harloff here. I host a pop culture show. And it's not just about movies and TV, which it is. We talk about news and all those types of things, but we like to add a little flavor to it. We like to have some fun conversations that you and your friends have when you're talking outside the movie theater or, I don't know, in your living room with your family and friends, just cracking jokes. And that's what we do on the show. We don't try to take it too seriously. So if you want to check us out, do it. Check it out. It is The Big Thing, Monday through Friday. Right here. Subscribe. Do all that stuff. It's fun. Come on. You want to have fun.
Hey, thanks so much for being a loyal listener. If you want to keep up with me off mic, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Gala Avery.
And we're back.
You heard it here. We are going to be talking about generational movie sharing. I have 30 minutes on the clock, and our time starts now. When you were younger, what was the first movie you remember your dad showing you?
I think that the first movie I remember going and seeing in the theater was The Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
Because they did like a reissue of it. They did some new something.
Yeah.
In like 1990. So I would have been 4. And my dad was here in town a few months ago, and he was talking about that. And he was like, I was expecting, for you to last like 20 minutes in the theater, but you made it through the whole thing.
Wow.
And I still love that movie so much. And that's a movie that, I've shared with my son, and he loves that movie too. So I think that that's my first theater experience, and probably like the first movie that I remember really being into. My dad is a film and video guy. He's a DP and a producer. And when I was younger, I remember he would like make dubs of movies that we would rent, like at his office. So we would rent like whatever, and he would dub it. So we just had like a huge library of VHS movies.
Wow.
And did you do this when you were a kid? But I would watch the same movie like 30 times.
There are a few movies I definitely watched like over and over. Like Yellow Submarine was one of them for me. And like I had the biggest crush on Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like literally. And my dad, because he originally wanted to be a cartoonist.
Okay.
And an animator.
Yeah.
And so he used to draw me the Beatles. And would draw me Ringo because I was like 3 or 4 and like in love with Ringo Starr. So my dad would do that for me.
Why Ringo?
I just thought it was so cool that he played the drums. And I used to want to play the drums because of him. And then my brother started playing. And my parents decided we can't have 2 drummers in the house. But I don't know what it was about Ringo. Maybe his nose. Like I love noses.
Yeah,
and
he has interesting eyebrows.
He has
too.
like interesting eyebrows and nose. And also there was always that rumor that like he was a terrible drummer.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think I was aware of this when I was little. But people always would be like, Ringo's a bad drummer. And like, why is he in the Beatles and blah, blah, blah. But he's actually a really good drummer. He's
a really good drummer. And I'm a drummer as well,
Yeah.
and I can't play like Ringo. I think like John Bonham. I mean, there's a long list of drummers that are technically better than Ringo, but Ringo is like a musician behind the drums. He adds to whatever's happening in the song in a way that I feel like most drummers can't. I think somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the reasons he's such an interesting drummer is he's actually left-handed.
Oh, that might be the case.
But he plays, like a right-handed setup where the hi-hat is on your left leg. Mm-hmm. And something about that, like flip-flop, has made him like learn to play in a different way. So like when he'll do a fill, he'll lead with the wrong hand. And because of that, I guess there's not like a right or wrong hand, but because of his like his dialect as a drummer, and the way that his hands are moving, it's really hard to recreate that.
Do you know who Jethro Tull is?
The band?
Yeah, like, and how he plays the flute, and like how
Right.
he learned how to play the flute.
Oh, I don't
because
know about that.
he doesn't play like in a classical way that you're like learn how to play the flute.
Yeah.
He just does it in his completely own style. And I've heard this story about like him like going to like his daughter's flute lesson, and they were like, "You don't play like that," and he just is so inspiring to me because I'm someone who doesn't actually play an instrument, which is, I think, a weird thing. Like I've tried lots of instruments and I just haven't found the one that fits me. But knowing that people can play instruments in just completely different ways and be genius at it is always something that really like resonated with me.
Like, didn't Jimi Hendrix play Upside Down?
Oh, he might have.
Because I think he was also left-handed, but I think he learned.
You know all these left-handed facts.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Are you left-handed?
I'm not. My dad has a twin brother, and my dad is right-handed and my uncle is left-handed.
Are they mirror twins?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the Winklevoss are mirror twins.
The Winklevoss.
The guys that did like Bitcoin.
Oh.
That were in like that also did like the Facebook thing.
Uh-huh,
And what's his Armie
yeah.
Hammer played them.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
are mirror twins. So
Okay.
they're like mirror images of themselves. But it was Yellow Submarine and then Fantastic Planet and Darby O'Gill and the Little People and Bugsy Malone, which is like
Yeah.
my favorite movie of all time. I watch that like yearly at least.
Wow.
But like those were kind of the movies, but I wonder if it's because I wanted to watch them or if because they were tolerable for my parents.
Yeah, that's part of it too. My parents were definitely not letting me watch everything. So then, like, when I was a little older and something would slip between the cracks, I would get really excited. Like, I remember, do you remember the movie Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox? And there's a really quick scene. I wish I remember her name, but the lead, along with Michael J. Fox, I can't remember her name. There's a scene where she's like coming out of the water and she's topless.
And you're like,
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. So I would just watch
yeah,
that.
you'd watch that and you're like, it got through.
I'm like 10 years old and I don't know if my parents like quite caught that when we were watching it or something. I don't know.
It's funny because like sex scenes have never been something like weird in my house.
Oh,
Like,
yeah?
Yeah, like I've watched, this sounds really weird, but like sex scenes in movies, like I've watched them like with my parents in the room.
Yeah.
And God, 444 Abel Ferrara.
Oh, wow.
When that movie came out, I was in Deauville. And I met Abel because there was some old guy walking around the lobby and he didn't have a computer charger. And so I gave him mine. And it turned out to be Abel Ferrara. And I didn't know who he was. I was like 15. And I met his girlfriend Shannon, who's in the picture. And so we went to go see the movie with them, like at the Deauville premiere. And she's like holding my hand, clutching me as it's like a 15-minute sex scene between her and Willem Dafoe.
Oh.
And I'm like with my dad on one side and her on the other.
Clutching your hand.
Clutching my
She's
hand.
so nervous.
Yeah, she's like watching herself be mauled by Willem Dafoe on screen. It's like, it was bizarre. But no, I don't know. It's like, it's weird though, because my dad was really
And you don't
good.
feel awkward?
I don't feel awkward about
Whoa.
it. But my dad was really good. Like, he never showed me anything R-rated. I didn't see Pulp Fiction until I was 18.
Oh, wow. And
Like-
how old were you when that came out?
I was born when that came out.
No way.
My mom was pregnant with me at the Academy Awards.
So you just like never watched it?
My
You-
dad asked me not to, and I just obeyed.
Obeyed him.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember my very first R-rated movie, though. A friend of mine took me to go see, I think it was Firefly. Is that R-rated? I don't know. I think it was that one.
I don't know that
the
movie.
Serenity? Is it Serenity? Like the Firefly? I don't know. It was some science fiction movie, and it was R-rated. And when my dad found out, he was so mad.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's because like he wanted to show me my first R-rated movie,
Right.
or if it was like he had curated my taste so carefully, and all of a sudden there's like interference like coming at him.
Yeah. I remember I think the first R-rated movie I saw in theaters was Gladiator with my grandfather.
Was your grandpa a big movie guy?
Yeah, he loved, this is my grandfather on my mother's side. His name was Cecil. And Cecil loved movies, yeah, for sure. But he and my other grandfather on my dad's side both loved like Westerns. They loved,
Oh, I love Westerns, like Bud Butterker and stuff like that.
yeah,
like classics.
and you know, and also like TV Westerns like Bonanza.
Yeah.
The Rifleman was a big one. I'm trying to look at what my dad said.
Oh yeah.
But
'cause
yeah,
you
they
talked to your dad
loved
about it. Yeah.
They loved Westerns, and I didn't really love it at the time.
It's funny
and
how
now
things
I
like
do.
that grow on you, though. Sometimes you don't appreciate them, and then when you look back in hindsight, either at like a memory or a genre, you're like, wow, like I'm really lucky that those people showed that to me and like tried to introduce
Absolutely.
it. And also, they're sharing something with you that they really love.
Yeah,
And it is a love language. Like I was talking with someone
it
else
is.
about that like sharing media and then having someone reciprocate either by liking it or even just discussing it with you is a total love language.
It is, and it's interesting to see that happening with like a baby.
Yeah.
So
Because he's so little.
he's so little, and it's funny the things they'll gravitate towards. Like one of my wife's favorite movies is The Big Night with Stanley Tucci and
Yeah.
Tony Shalhoub, and we showed that movie to my son like last November, and it was just like we showed him this clip. I remember we showed him the clip where everyone's in the restaurant and they're kind of dancing to Mambo Italiano by Rosemary Clooney.
Yeah.
It was on YouTube. So we were just like showing him that, and he would watch it and love it and say like more. And we watch it again, watch it again. We probably ran that one YouTube clip up like 200 times in the course of a week, and then it was taken down.
Oh, so you're like, I gotta watch the movie.
Yeah, so then we bought the movie, and yeah, he's obsessed with it. He can.
Do you think
yeah.
it's like in his DNA? Like the
Maybe.
things that
That's
you guys
interesting.
liked? Yeah, because they do have evidence now that like there is generational DNA from like specifically trauma. And I don't think watching that movie is traumatic.
Yeah.
But that like you can carry things that your ancestors had within them inside of you DNA wise. And so sometimes I wonder like him liking that movie that your wife loves,
Yeah.
like is that literally born into him?
I wonder. I mean, it would make sense, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not like an adult movie, capital A adult, but there's no like kid
Yeah, but
fascination stuff with it.
But I also
he
feel
loves
like
it.
the kid fascination stuff. Okay, it's like when you and compared to this like TikTok generation, like Generation Alpha, and I mean your son is way below Generation Alpha, but I'm just going to use Generation Alpha as an example. The media that's being created for them and being beamed to them, every single cut is less than 3 seconds in children's media nowadays. And when you go back and you look at old stuff, the cuts are a lot longer, and
Yeah.
they show that like when you're a child and you're developing, watching quick cuts is really bad for your development.
Yeah.
And they need the longer cuts, the softer colors, the not as loud to like develop their brains.
Totally.
And so I almost think it's better to kind of go back to prior media and even stuff that is adult without the capital A is
Yeah.
okay. But like, how do you determine like what's okay? Because I'm sure there are things that your dad showed you that you're like, I don't want to show my son that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
I
appropriate.
mean, you know, the one thing that my dad showed me that I just did not fuck with and still to this day don't is Gone with the Wind. And it
Really?
wasn't for any like, I mean, now that movie has been re-examined and whatever, but like no, I just was like thinking this sucks. The acting sucks. Like I'm bored to tears, and that's a movie that never came back around for me.
That's funny though.
Yeah.
But it's also like when you're showing your son something,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you obviously like your parents tried to omit the nudity
Sure.
and stuff like that. And like you have to shepherd your child into like what's right. And I talked with another parent about this kind of because it's like there's stuff that like my parents showed me. And I tell people now like, oh yeah, like my dad showed me Fantastic Planet when I was 3 years
Yeah,
old.
that
And they're
movie is
like-
crazy.
And that movie's crazy. And like, I don't know if you like, should you be showing that to a 3-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh, I turned out fine.
Yeah. You turned out fine.
turned out
so
fine.
it worked out.
Worked out.
I think a part of it too is like, let me watch something that I can enjoy too.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
even
a
if it's
huge
like
thing.
A Disney movie, you know, I'd rather him watch something that I can selfishly enjoy as well. And I think that
Well, no,
has
that
part
100
to
does.
do
Like
with it.
my brother and I both grew up watching anime, and
Mm-hmm.
my mom comes from a Polish family
Okay.
where like they didn't even want anything from the quote Japs. Like they would not have like it had to all be like American made cars or European made. It was nothing Japanese in my mom's house. And then she made a decision to allow my brother and I to watch anime, and we both like grew up loving Japan and loving anime. And I asked her later, I was like, why did you make that choice? Like you kind of gave us something that like you didn't have. And she said, oh, because I found it more tolerable than the American cartoons.
Yeah.
So like when I would put it on, like she would just kind of like whatever about it.
She was like not bothered by
She
it.
was not bothered by it at all.
That's interesting. Going back to the like TikTok Cuddy stuff, that makes total sense. That
Yeah.
like their brains. I mean, our brains aren't prepared to take all of that information in either. I'm gonna start showing my son like Simon Lang and
Puzzle plays.
Ozu and Brisson and like the slowest shit that I can find. Bellatar.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
I show him
what
Turn
did, what
Horse.
what did your dad show you growing up? Bellatar.
I was really into Bellatar. Safe and Tango was like a big
he's
one.
gonna get bullied on the playground if you
Oh,
do that.
for sure. I am not bully proofing my son at all.
I think bullying is actually good for character development
Yeah.
and building. I'm gonna be honest. I
Yeah.
was bullied growing up. It gives
Are you
a-
bullying me right now?
I am bullying you.
Yeah.
I'm bullying. Everyone will hear me that I'm bullying you. No, but I think it's like sometimes people are too protected with their media, and you have to kind of see things and experience them. And I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
I agree. I mean, I agree. There's so many great memories of like sharing movies with friends and family. And I'm just, I love that we continue to do that. And I was talking to a guy the other day he's like a filmmaker, and he was asking, or he was just kind of talking about like what's going to happen with movies because of TikTok. And like, this new generation or new generations to come not having the appetite or the patience to watch something that's not grabbing you in the first 10 seconds, whatever. I don't know. I believe that movies are changing, and like the way that I grew up going to the theater like multiple times a week during the summers and like every weekend, maybe that's not going to be the situation for my son's generation. Maybe movies are not going to be the primary. Maybe TikTok is the new movies. Maybe movies become like vinyl now, where like vinyl sales are doing better than they have been in 30 years or something. So maybe it's going to become a more boutique thing, but I really don't care. Like, I don't think that it's my job to fight for the popularity of movies or to try and uphold some standard as far as that goes. But I do think that it's important to think about those kids as individuals. And like, sure, TikTok is a thing, but also people are people, and not everybody is going to be like wanting fast ass cuts.
Well, it's also funny. It's like when us movie people think that like everyone is into movies. I'm just gonna be honest. And like I remember when I used to go get my nails done, I asked the nail lady. I was like, "So, like, when's the last time you went to the movies?" And she's like, "Oh, I haven't been to the movies like maybe in 2 years." And I was like, 2 years?
2 years.
Like my brain is decompiling. And I'm like, "Well, do you watch movies at home?" And she's like, "No, like every now and then maybe I'll watch a TV show or like sports or something." I was like, "Sports? Like what are you doing?" And it's funny because we get like into this like cosm of like movies are the most important thing, and then you forget that there's a bunch of people out there that like have nothing to do with it in their lives.
Oh,
they don't
of course.
consume the media at all. I think movies will survive no matter what. I think
me too.
I think younger generations actually crave nostalgia and crave something real, and I think like brain rot is very, very real.
Yeah.
I think we can all suffer from it, and I think it is the youth that we have to protect from it. But as you said, people are people. Just like
People are people.
should
I
make their own
agree. Like,
choices.
movies will last. Like, again, like I don't know. I don't really care either. Like, to what end they're popular.
Yeah.
They'll always be around. They'll be around much longer than we will. It's still such a young art form. And, I was also talking to this guy about like hip hop. When hip hop first came out, like in the mid to late 80s, it's this sample based music they're taking from, classic rock drum fills or jazz flute or whatever. And I know that like most people at that time were like, well, this is just a fad that's going to fade away. This is dumb.
Here we are.
And here we are in 2024. Hip hop is pop now.
Yeah.
It's the most popular thing. So I'm not afraid or nervous about TikTok influencing cinema and vice versa. I think that that's already happening.
Well, yeah, it is already happening. I'm more worried about it influencing people's brains and just
Yeah.
having it just like completely rot. But that's a whole different thing.
Wait, so you're against sports?
Sports?
Yeah.
No. I like sports.
Oh, you just kind of...
I just couldn't believe that she like watched sports. I like sports. I
What do
don't
you
watch
like?
sports. Oh, like baseball. I like
Baseball?
rugby, hockey.
What?
Like all the hot guy sports. I like watching the hot guys play.
Some random ass sports.
I know. It's 'cause
Did
it's
you
all-
see that Netflix documentary about the rugby?
I don't have Netflix.
Oh, you're a purist. You don't even do
I
that.
have Discovery Plus.
Huh?
Discovery Plus.
Well, then you're not a purist.
I know. I watch crime shows and 90 Day Fiancé.
90 Day Fiance. Which is your favorite season?
Oh.
Or who are your favorite characters?
Well, I've watched all like 38 seasons in a row since it aired. Like I have a spreadsheet for people that want to get into the show of like the watch order that you do it in.
You have a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet.
Well, how does that work?
It's just like the date that it airs, like which episodes aired at which time. So like you watch them in order of like the air date rather than like, I know I'm like a super nerd for 90
You are bullying me right now. This is a joke. You're joking.
No, I'm not
Holy
joking.
shit.
I'm like a super nerd. Who's my favorite character on 90 Day? Well, I have like people that I like watching, but they're not my favorite.
Like Angela?
Well, no, I don't like Angela.
You don't?
No, because Angela's actually like abusive. She should not
She
be
is.
on the show.
No, she should be in jail.
I'm like, did you hear that Big Ed just got a new fiance?
No.
He met her at a restaurant and less than 24 hours he proposed to her.
Good for him. You know, he lives in San Diego.
Yeah.
Every fiber in me wants to drive down and go just get some beers with Big Ed.
You should. You should just
I would love
contact him.
to.
I'm sure he'd like that.
I
You should make a movie about Big Ed.
I should cast him
Actually,
in my next thing.
That'd be amazing.
He would be such a bad actor.
But he could just be himself.
Yeah,
Just cast
exactly.
him as Big Ed.
Yeah.
No, cast him to play Danny DeVito. And then have
I
Danny
do a
DeVito.
Twins remake with him and Dave Bautista.
Oh my God, that'd be so funny.
That would be sweet.
No, who's my favorite on 90 Day? It changed. I like Sarper and Shekinah on like they're on the other way.
Okay. I don't know.
But
them.
yeah, I don't know. I have like a lot of people I like to watch.
It's been a while. Like I was really into it for a while, and I had to kind of like I had to pump the brakes.
No, I watch it like I'm obsessed.
But don't you feel like there's so much filler? There's a lot of bullshit that I got tired of, where it's like we're sitting in this person's apartment and they're having a non-conversation for 3 different segments.
This is like why I have Discovery Plus, because I can just fast forward.
Fast forward through it.
I fast forward like a Gino and Jasmine.
Oh,
when they're on the
you don't
show. Well, I like them.
Jasmine.
I like them, but I don't like the super uber sexual stuff that they put on the TV, and so I'll just like
Okay.
fast forward. Well, it's funny though, because I'll watch like sex scenes.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
movies
you
with my
watch
parents.
444.
I'll watch 444, but like when it comes to like a reality show sex scene, my mom's like fast forward. Like we don't want to see this. Like none of us want to see this.
If Willem Dafoe is fucking, we can watch it.
Yeah,
But
that's A-okay in my house.
If
If Gino and Jasmine is stuck in a toe.
Oh,
then
no.
we can't have that happen.
Wait, what's his name? Jasmine and what?
Gino.
Yeah, Gino. Yeah.
Gino. No, that's like it's my guilty pleasure for sure.
Yeah.
It's actually not guilty. I'm not
Yeah,
guilty.
you're just pleasured.
I'm just
by
pleasured by
90
90 Day Fiance. It's like I watch 90 Day Fiance and I watch Star Trek. And that's like my 2 television and then crime shows. That's like what I absorb TV wise.
Okay.
And then movies.
I've never gotten into Star Trek. It kind of gives me car sickness.
You know what's funny? It's actually that's what my parents showed me growing up.
Yeah.
Was Star Trek. I have seen probably every single season like 20 times. It
Whoa.
just runs in my house. Like
Damn.
right now, I bet Star Trek is on in my house. My
Really?
mom, yeah, it'll just play, and my mom will just let it autoplay. And so it's always on in the background. And my brother and I have watched so much of it now that we're like, we can pop it in anytime and be like, oh, it's this episode where this happens. And my parents did it because I didn't grow up religious, and they thought that that was like the best way to impart morals. Because
Star Trek.
Yeah, it's all moral.
They never heard of Mr. Rogers or
No, it's all Star Trek.
Star Trek.
It's all moral
Some
tales.
Trekkie morals.
No, it's all morals, and they're all Shakespearean actors in like
Leonard
Next
Nimoy.
Generation, but also like in Next Generation. They're all doing like Shakespeare basically. The show is just Shakespeare, and so
Yeah.
it's just really fun to watch. And now it's like my comfort show. Like whenever I need to chill, I also wrote like a ton of papers in college on it.
Whoa.
Like
Okay.
all of it. So
How do you feel about the I don't know anything about the movies, but
I'm not even like the original movies or like the Next Generation movies. I kind of never watched those.
Oh,
So
you're
I'm like a
really
TV
about
show.
the show.
And not any of the new shows. It ends at Enterprise with me. Ends around 9/11 for me.
9/11 is when Enterprise.
No, so Enterprise came out at 9/11, and the reason the show failed was because of 9/11.
Oh.
Because the show had actual guns in it.
Okay.
And then the first season, like the first half of the season aired, and then 9/11 happened.
Oh.
And because of that, people didn't want to see guns on TV and like terrorism. And that's literally what the show is about. Is like
Whoa.
these aliens come and blow up Earth, like part of Earth, and they go to like get the terrorists.
Ooh, yeah.
I know, and they're like, oh, okay, that didn't work for us.
I just
really good
listened
show,
to your
though.
episode with Thomas Jane,
Yeah.
and he's talking about being in this acting class that Marlon Brando taught, which
Yeah.
is mind-boggling.
In a
And Tony
moo-moo.
Kaye, who's this
Tony-
director, I guess he did American History X,
Yeah.
was showing up to film these classes dressed as Osama bin Laden right
Yeah,
after September.
right after.
And then you never got to the reason why, because
I know.
Tony pissed off Marlon and Marlon kicked him out and he never came back. So he was just dressed up as,
I don't know why he was doing that.
wow, that's
So-
intriguing.
It is intriguing. Are you teaching acting classes right now?
I'm like not sure I would say I'm teaching. I mean, I am leading actors in in some work that I believe is a good way to approach the craft of acting, which I was taught. And so I always, whenever I'm working with these people, I make it very clear that I'm not a guru. I'm not like a master. I'm not like an intellectual about it. I just really like that shit. I like being in the mix with it. Yeah. So I started it as like an experiment back in February, and pleasantly surprised at how many people were interested in doing it. And so then when I started doing it, I was nervous that it would be a waste of my time, like I wouldn't be any good at it, and more importantly, like people wouldn't be getting anything out of it. It's really not a pat on my back. It's just like the nature of the work and the way that we do it with people that are kind of like somewhat disciplined about their approach and trying to set a high bar for themselves. So yeah, now I have like around
50. I didn't know it was
50.
that many.
And there's like a Monday and a Wednesday daytime group, and then a Monday and a Wednesday night. There's 4
Do you guys
groups.
do like improv or like?
I mean, yeah, it's improvised based, but it's not like UCB or Second City yes and improv. Like the idea is that we're working completely not in our heads and in our impulses and our instincts in
Yeah.
this moment, and kind of like
In the
laying
here
the
and now.
foundation for that, which I think is, no matter what the way that some of these actors worked, like they embody that. Jenna Rollins, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Marlon Brando. There's a presence and a nowness in their acting, and it flips it. Like they're experiencing something and not trying to perform. Like they're interested in that moment instead of trying to be interesting.
I like that.
So
good.
that's kind of like the foundation of what we're doing, is building off of those ideas.
Are you showing them movies?
Yeah, we watch a movie every week.
Do the whole like each class like they're all watching the same movie?
Yeah, we're not watching it together, but they're all watching the same movie every week.
What was your movie this week? Or last week?
I've got to email the Monday group when we get done with this. I forgot what the week 3 movie is. I kind of like do it the same with every group. So last week's movie was Opening Night by John Cassavetes with Jenna Rollins. And the first week I do The Master, because I think that there's a lot of like, there's a lot of back and forth between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix that I think resonates with the first few weeks of our work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really cool. I took Lee Strasberg when I was
Okay.
a kid. Like my dad put me in to try to get me to like talk to people my own age. I
The
guess.
Strasberg school here.
Yeah, school here. Yeah, because I was like talking to only like older people in my art class. So he was like, "You need to talk to people your own age."
How was it?
I didn't like particularly like it. I had done acting in school and was in plays and stuff, and I always liked to act. But they told me that I wasn't very good, and that I was acting more like I was presenting.
They said you're not very good.
They told me like I wasn't very good,
Yeah.
and I was acting like I was presenting, and then here I am doing presenter work later in my life. So I guess they were right. I guess it's like what I'm kind of built for.
Yeah, but I'm really like diabolically opposed to telling somebody
Well,
that.
I think that they were also, or at least my teacher, the whole thing about Strasberg method is that like you do that whole thing where like you yell. I'm not going to do it into the mic.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like you yell and like you let your emotions out. And I'm just diametrically opposed to doing that in a setting with a bunch of people that I don't know. And
some of that work
methods
can
do it.
seem so masturbatory and like cringy to me.
That was
you
what I
know.
felt. I just did not feel like doing that.
I don't particularly like use the Strasberg method in my work, but there's elements of it that are really useful.
yeah.
Relaxation and certain sensorial kind of things that you can do. But, I think that the main difference between like Stella Adler and Sanford Meisner versus Lee Strasberg is Strasberg was kind of holding on to the early Stanislavski teaching of like emotional trauma and kind of digging up times in your life where you were truly devastated and then recreating that.
Yeah.
Well, Stella Adler, met with Stanislavski later in his life, and Stanislavski was like, I'm done with that. That doesn't work.
He worked through his trauma, or maybe he didn't.
Yeah, something. But I think he was starting to see that it was not exactly useful in the way that he was thinking that it was. And in fact, the imagination kicks in and does a lot of that work. Because like a past trauma happened so long ago, naturally you're going to forget all of the details. So you're going to need to fill in those gaps with something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Stella Adler and Stanford Meisner both had this idea that acting is a lot more fruitful when it's based from a place of truth inside of you and then built with imagination.
Yeah, I think my dad just wanted me to go to an acting class to
Yeah.
just like experience it, and I'm really like thankful to him because even though
Absolutely.
I didn't like love it,
Mm-hmm.
he drove me from Ojai
Wow.
all the way here like
To Hollywood.
twice a week to Hollywood
Damn.
for me to do it.
Dedicated.
And would go and like sit at a coffee shop like while I was in there.
Wow.
So he's such a good dad. I love my dad so much.
Yeah, he was committed to you. That's really
he still
awesome.
is committed to me. Oh my god, I love him so much.
I love him too. I've never met him, but I do love Roger Avery. I love him a lot. I think that this is the last thing I'll say. I have not done many acting classes. I took like 2.5, 3 years doing a program with this guy named Bill Alderson, who was Sanford Meisner's assistant for like 35 years and kind of co-teacher later in his life. Bill was like in his 80s when I studied with him and worked with a lot of my favorite actors. And, I was very familiar with the technique and I knew that was what I wanted to explore. But I have to say, like, LA is a minefield of bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
For acting classes. You have no idea how many people I meet that are interested in checking out my workshop who have been in classes for like 3-4 years. And all they've done is like scene study stuff. So they'll get, a scene from Streetcar Named Desire.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll do like a really good Blanche. They'll work it out with their scene partner and their director, and the director will block it, and then like a few weeks later they'll put it up one more time, and then they'll go have drinks and kind of celebrate the work and talk about the dark poetic vision of Tennessee Williams, but they're no closer to knowing how their actor's instrument works or how their body and their spirit and like anything that's unique to them can be brought to a role. And that happens like rinse and repeat. People want to train and want to become good, but again, like LA is a minefield of bullshit that is like, I think the intention is there with people that are signing up for these classes, but the teachers are not coming from a place of craft with it. It's more just like throwing shit against the wall and collecting your money.
Yeah, and seeing what sticks or what doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
That is all the time that we have for today. But Al, is there any final thought that you'd like to share with the audience?
I'd like to say that I just discovered today that Mel Brooks is the director of Robin Hood Men in Tights. I was showing that to my son this morning, and he's been really into the Robin Hood cartoon. And we watched the beginning of it, and I was like, damn, I love this movie. I haven't seen it in forever. And yeah, Mel Brooks directed it. I had no idea. I guess the last thing I'll say, just a selfless promotional plug, is that my movie Dogleg is out on Mubi, and now it's out with Vinegar Syndrome and OCN on Blu-ray. And
Is the Blu-ray out or is it on pre-order right now?
Well, it's on pre-order, but like people are starting to receive it already.
Oh, wow.
Like video
okay.
stores
I guess
are
that's
already
how
getting it.
Pre-order works nowadays.
Maybe just video stores have it. So, the few video stores that are existing.
exist,
Like
yeah.
I've seen a few of them post it. So we don't have any copies yet, but
Oh.
yeah, it's available for pre-order.
Thank you so much to my guest, Al Warren, for coming on to the show. If you'd like to keep up with Al, you can do so on his Instagram, Al_Warren. And you can also head on over to dogleg.com to get updates and merch.
Doglegthemovie.com.
Doglegthemovie.com. And you can also head on over to doglegthemovie.com to get updates and merch for the film. And of course, make sure to check out Dogleg on Blu-ray. It's through Vinegar Syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
Through Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show. The Gala Show is brought to you by Avery.com. This episode was executive produced by Roger Avery and produced by Gala Avery. Music composed by Andy Milburn. As always, I'm your host, Gala Avery. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Despite me sharing the same last name with this charity, I don't have any affiliation with it, besides the fact the issue is very near and dear to my heart. Did you know that in the United States, 2.7 million children currently have a parent in prison, and it's estimated that 10 million children have experienced parental incarceration at some point in their lives? I was one of these kids, and as an adult, I am really grateful to be able to give back to Project Avery. Their mission is to build leadership from within by supporting community through programs such as mentoring and outdoor education, and also to remove the stigma surrounding having a parent that's incarcerated. You don't have to feel alone. If you know a kid who could use these resources or would like to donate money or time to the charity, please go to Project Avery, that's AVARY.org, to check out what this amazing charity is all about. Again, that's projectavery.org. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Hey moms, looking for some lighthearted guidance on this crazy journey we call parenting?
Join me, Sabrina Kohlberg,
And me, Andy Mitchell, for Pop Culture Moms,
where each week we talk about what we're watching
and examine our favorite pop culture moms up close to try to pick up some parenting hacks along the way.
Come laugh, learn, and grow with us as we look for the best tips.
And maybe a few what not to do's from our favorite fictional moms.
From Good Morning America and ABC Audio.
Pop Culture Moms. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.